Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. It's New Year's. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2021. I'm so excited for the show that we're going to do today and what we're going to be talking about right out of the gate. It's really, really important because we're talking about you're in charge of your life, and we're talking about creating financial stability in business to support your life. That's what we're going to be discussing because the world of business is changing. Traditional structures and models are breaking down. And as a result, opportunity is endless for people who have a deep and abiding passion and offering for their clients. When you feel certain that you have a service or product that solves a problem, soothes a pain point, or serves humanity, you have the basis for creating financial stability in business. And my guest today, my client, and my friend, Susan Axelrod, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kornelia. You know how happy I am to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm so excited that we're going to be talking about this subject because it's definitely in the field and it's definitely a call for a lot of women entrepreneurs, not just women, but men too, to really create financial freedom, financial stability in their lives. And so this is why I am so excited that this opportunity came to be and that we're bringing this very, very important topic because you and I both have been there. We know what it's like to be women in business and then also, looking at structures that aren't serving us any longer to create a better financial stability in our own lives and then support other women doing the same because we both support women, right?
Yes, we do.
And so I just want to say, the women that I support, for those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, on Fridays here on the Kornelia Stephanie Show, you're going to see the show that's going to launch right after this one is a show with Diane Solano. And Diane Solano is the energy entrepreneur and she empowers women through health. The show after that is Christelle Biga, and she also is a success entrepreneur and she aligns women that are ready to move into success with an easy way. So these are the entrepreneurs that I help. I help consultants grow their brand and use podcasting and video marketing to connect with their audience. And that's the missing piece is how to, pivot and how to connect with our audience without just talking into a void, into an endless void of sharing information, but an actual way to connect and to leverage and grow our audience, to connect with them and to build financial stability. So this is what we're talking about today, Susan. And why don't you tell the story of how we ended up speaking today on this topic?
Yeah, I just love us, Kornelia. I have to say that. I was having a conversation with a client recently, and in the conversation, which is always about business, as you know, I also help women grow businesses. I mentioned that I missed the 20th anniversary year of my being in business. And she said to me, "You've been sustained in business for 20 years?" And I said, yeah. And I knew that because the first contract that I had when I really went out on my own started in June of 2001. So right before 9/11. And so, of course, I really know exactly what that year was. And then it just sort of came and went. It was, I'm sorry, it was 1999 that I had my first contract. And then the anchor contract that came later was in 2001. But 2019 was such a busy year for me in business that it just came and went. I didn't even notice it. So she said to me, this is such an important topic. And she said to me, she knows you, and she said to me, you should talk about this with Cornelia. I love your energy together, and you both talk about this topic, and it's more important than ever for women. So, as you know, I contacted you, and by a miracle, you happen to have a spot open on a podcast. And so here we are today.
Yes, and I just want to say that this is, it's kind of like ask and it is given right away. It's like looking at asking for what it is that you want, and then a miracle happens and things appear when you're really in alignment with what you said, calling it passion. When you have a service, when you have something that you want to offer, that the opportunities are there for us, but we have to be willing to ask for what it is that we want. And you shared this with me, which is a key piece, because you shared the story, and I said, well, ask and it is given. I have a spot for you, Susan. So why don't you come on and let's talk about this subject, which is so important for women in business in 2021.
Yeah, it is. The idea of sustaining a business, that financial sustainability, the financial flexibility and freedom that you can have is so important for the women we work with. They are sometimes getting started, sometimes they've been in business in fits and starts, but they haven't really figured out how to have that financial sustainability. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm so excited. How long have you been in business, Cornelia? Because I know a lot about you, but I don't know the answer to that question.
So I've been in business for myself since 2008.
Hmm.
So I left the corporate 2008 in March of 2008. And so it's been 12 years.
Yes. So also a long time to have that independence, that self-sufficiency in business. So this is a very important conversation.
And the thing about it is, it was that passion that you talked about, and it was that knowing that I have something to offer to others that would help them, that would soothe their pain, that would maybe allow them to sleep through the night without staying awake to look over the choices that they've made, that they didn't feel good about the choices, or financial things keeping them up in the middle of the night. So was something that definitely was a soul call for me, to really step into my courage and leave the corporate world behind and go into business for myself. And it has been challenging. It has been extremely challenging because,
Mm.
there wasn't the support there, financial support. There was so many things to learn. There was so many things to learn with how to market yourself. There were so many there was structure to be created. There were leads to figure out how to talk to people. There was so many things that I had to learn as an entrepreneur. And again, always faced with, do I keep going or do I give up? And how do I make this work for myself when, also trying to pay the bills and, have a cash flow, because cash flow is king.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot in there in what you said. First of all, you're talking about, I'm just taking a few notes here while you're talking, the idea of the passion. I call it being impassioned, as I know you are, that you called it that deep passion. I call that being impassioned. And then you said that soul calling. And these are two things that when you find that space, that's when you have the impetus to be able to keep going during those hard times, which we all experience as an entrepreneur or as a solopreneur. If you're working alone, it can get lonely and it can get hard, but being in that soul space where the business comes up in you, and that's the same thing with you, Cornelia, I see it, where the business comes up in you and out of you all the time, whether you mean it or not, whether you want it to or not. I call this intuitive business, but that is the next next thing that you said was you said, I kept going, and so, or sometimes you want to give up, but you kept going. That tenacity, that perseverance is another thing that I've learned is what creates financial sustainability in business. Otherwise, you're stopping right and left and starting again and starting again and starting again. And that is one of the things that creates instability in business.
So how did it happen for you? What was it that originally got you started on your journey, and how long has it been?
Yes, so really it's been just over 20 years, and it started because I wanted some freedom and flexibility to be with my school-age children. My kids were in daycare when they were younger and I was younger and I was working full time. I traveled for my job, etc. But once they got into school, I had this burning need into the school age years that I really wanted to be there with them. So if you forgive me for saying, Cornelia, this is where it stems from. No child of mine is going to be having sex on my bed while I'm working. So that's the truth. So early in those late elementary, middle school years, I really decided that I wanted to break into this. At that time, I really was in the highest level position in my career. I was in my late 30s. I was a vice president of a statewide child welfare agency. I made enough money that I could easily, freely buy Clinique makeup and have a house cleaner. And I had responsibility. The problem was that I had a boss who ended up getting unseated by the government from that position. But for me, the stress and pain and pressure of missing my children's school age moments, those emotions that get developed, that time that you spend with them, I really just had had enough. And so for many years, and this is key in creating that financial sustainability, for many years, I had already been helping others freely. And so I got to this point where somebody called me whom I had helped endlessly, which was fine. I was always happy to, but I had already made my decision. And she called me to ask for some advice about something. And I said, so and so, I want to let you know that I am going to be starting up to work as a consultant. And so I will be charging for these calls. The courage to say that came from my need, my pain points. But what I didn't know how she would answer, the only thing she said to me in response was, how much are you going to charge? She was ready, and she knew I was proven. I had helped her. And guess what happened? I wasn't ready for her answer.
Yeah.
Another very important point that we can
She
talk
gave
about
it to
later.
you. She gave it to you. She hired you on.
She hired me on. She hired me. She became one of my first clients with multiple things. But I got ready quickly to answer that question. But what I did is the first tip that I would like to share today, Cornelia, of how to do this. And that is to use your career expertise to help financial stability. So, one of the things that women do is, I mean, maybe everyone does this, but I work with women, is we get ideas about something and then we try to go and create a business about it. But you have nothing in you. You have no years of expertise, no intuition, no experience in it, and you suffer. If you can go in and really look at your career expertise, why are you going to ignore what you did for 10 or 15 or 20 or even 25 years and not use that expertise to create financial sustainability? You can confidently charge more because you're using your career expertise. So that is my first tip that I want to share today.
That's Susan, that is gold. That is gold because everything that you've done up until your life, the career expertise is training you for where you are going now, because you can certainly use what you've had from your career expertise and bring it into your business now, because to be a CEO, to be the, the president of your company, to be that, person in charge, the one in charge of your life, you have to be able to make decisions. You have to be able to use some of that knowledge and credibility of what you've learned in your past and bring it into your business today. Excellent tip.
Yes, and this is so important. It happens, and now that you're tuned into it, you're going to hear it too, and you can ask the question. And this happens to me so often with my, I call it intuitive business coaching with my clients. These women, again, I work with women, these women are off here. They've just veered off and veered away. And so now they're charging a few dollars because they don't feel confident, even though it might be something that they are passionate about and interested in. But this is the way that you can move into that space. And honestly, that is what I did. That is part of how I sustained in my early years, was that I used that career expertise and the confidence that came with it to say, yeah, I am a totally proven professional. I was well known in my community. Why? Because I volunteered so much. I gave so much freely for so long that when I started picking up the phone to letting people know I was doing this, I got hired. And I was very confident to be able to say, yeah, I can help you and I want to help you. This other thing that has come to me now as a confidence coach working with women and so much else that has found me in more recent years came along the way. And Cornelia, I wasn't ready for it early on. This is another thing that happens. I just wasn't ready for it early on. There would be times when I would be thinking to myself, oh, I want to do something. I wish this, I wish that, I want that. Why can't I this? But I just wasn't ready for it. All that stuff that I thought of then has now found me later. I'd like to share a second tip, Cornelia, that was a total game changer for me. Now, it may not work for everyone, but it could work for people, and I want to share it today. May I do that?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay. The second tip is this: get an anchor contract to get started. And this is another thing that I did. Some point after I started making calls and letting people in my region know that I was going to do consulting work in my industry, I got a call really seemingly out of the blue from someone whom I knew professionally. In fact, I had been doing networking lunches with her for a few years. A few higher level people in my field, we had gotten together. I orchestrated these lunches just as networking, brainstorming lunches to support each other. She called me and said, I want you to come here and do this piece of high level specialty work for my organization. And I was like, I hadn't, I mean, she said it in such a complete way. And so I ended up negotiating with her. I said, I really am a consultant now, and I only want to work part-time in these hours. And she said to me the magic words, Cornelia, I don't care how you do it as long as you get it done for this organization. And so I negotiated a full-time salary working 2 days a week. And I did that for 15 years. After the 10-year mark, I raised it by 20%, and I still worked 2 days a week. I did that because of the first tip, which is the career expertise. So do you get the idea of creating that anchor contract?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also get the idea of when you were clear that you what you really wanted to do, and then you put it out there, and by making those phone calls, that you weren't really ready for that person to come back and say to you, yeah, how much do you charge? You weren't ready for it. And I come to this too with women entrepreneurs that aren't ready yet for that level of abundance, and they get shocked when, when they ask for what it is they want, their salary, whatever it is that they want, that they actually get it. And that's the piece. So this is one takeaway, and to be sure to go ahead and ask for what it is that you want. And then the anchoring part, because you need something to anchor you in your business, and that's what you're talking about with your anchor contract, right?
Yes, yes, and you teach the model, and I'm getting it. I haven't gotten it yet, Cornelia, but I'm listening to you. I'm learning from you. You've taught the model of creating a membership of a sort. Of again, you talk about also using your intuition space, your passion space to create this membership, which could be high volume, and that could be your anchor as well. So whether it's an anchor contract like I talked about, because working 2 days a week as a consultant gave me 3 days a week to grow all this other stuff, or in your model, the anchor might be developing a membership of some sort or other, or a subscription of some sort or other that creates an anchor.
The main thing is that the entrepreneur, the person, has systems in place in order to create that financial stability, whatever that system is. So, whether it is making that one contract with that call that you made, or it's a membership, or we've talked before, and I want to put this video, I'm going to go find it and I'm going to put it underneath this. When you watch this video later, watch the video that Susan and I did when we talked about, when Susan shared about the pie, the financial pie, because we did a show on how to create that financial pie, and Susan broke it all down for you. And so we did that one, and we'll put that in the description later below when you watch it later. But I want to find out a little bit more about your intuitive business. Like, what does that mean? What do you mean by intuitive business? What does that mean? How can you explain that to us a little bit better?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. Again, in the early years of starting on my own, I did it for other reasons. But over time of being in it and staying with it, and also my own spiritual transformation, my spiritual journey to be more I call it soul connected, connected to my soul self. My intuition began to rise. A woman's intuition is not just a phrase. It's a real thing if we allow it and if we see it and know it. And so now I teach women about intuitive business. I mentioned it earlier. In the intuitive business space, you're in your business, you're doing your business, it's coming out of you freely, offering it to everyone and their brother, because you can't not do that. It's the thing that becomes your seminal message. Sometimes it does stem from your career expertise. Sometimes it stems from your life experience. Sometimes it actually stems from trauma, overcoming trauma. But whatever it is, these tools, I haven't done it today, but you know how much I breathe and I open and I stretch. And I know you do this too. We go out in nature. We use these soul supports to help us develop intuition. So intuitive business is when you are sharing, communicating, activating yourself in a space that produces business. You're sitting on a bus and the stranger next to you starts talking to you, and lo and behold, all of a sudden you get a new coaching client. Because you're just in this intuitive space where it comes out of you. So this is something that grows over time. We already talked about sticking with it, Cornelia. You said you've been in business for yourself for 8 years, but your soul journey started way before that. Of course, I know that. And so the business space that found you eventually, that you created, really started up in very early experiences that you've shared with me, which is what became this intuitive business space that you're in.
Yeah.
So do you understand what I'm saying? Ask me more questions so I could be
Well,
even more
actually,
clear.
Susan, it was not 8 years, but it was 12 years, because it
Or
was
12 years, 2008. Yeah.
2008. But I want to say that we only have like 2 minutes left.
Oh,
It's just amazing how fast. We're going to have another discussion around this. We'll have you back. We'll talk about it. But let's announce to the audience you're doing a podcast. We're going to be doing a podcast. Let's tell them when this is so they can continue on watching you and also joining your live studio audience with something that I've created. But why don't you tell them where to find you?
Yes, I'm so excited. I can be found at my website, whatwillyourlegacybe.com. I can also be found with Cornelia on TTR on January 15th. We are starting up a podcast called Webcam Confidence for Women. As part of the intuitive business space that I teach, being able to go live on video, being able to do a beautiful, authentic, engaging video presentation is so important. It's vital to your business sustainability. And so that's what we're starting. We are going to be talking about coaching tips in the podcast. And immediately following the podcast, we will be in the studio doing real-time live coaching with our studio audience.
This is the time when you can actually have access to Susan and also Pam, her co-partner. You
Yeah.
can have access to them and you can ask them any questions. So all of those women that are ready to step into their abundance, which is what I wish for you in 2021, to smash it, smashing your success. This is it. This is your time. This is our time to really go big or go home.
Yeah.
Susan Axelrod, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your expertise, for all the tips. Thank you, audience, for listening and tuning in. And thank you for just being who you are. And let's make the world a better place. See you soon. Thank you.